This week, the issue is the imminent Senate election. Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, is with us. Plus, Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, Eric Early, is here. And we talk foreign policy with retired four-star general and former CIA director David Petraeus, as the issue is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. On Monday night, we are hosting the first TV and radio debate in the race for California's U.S. Senate seat. It airs live at 6 on Fox 11 and Issue Is affiliates across the state, on the radio, on KFI AM 640, and iHeart stations across the state, and streaming live at foxla.com. On stage, you see them there, the top 4 polling candidates, including Oakland Congresswoman Barbara Lee. We caught up with Congresswoman Lee this week on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This week, she earned the endorsement of the McClatchy newspapers, including the Sacramento Bee. We talked to her right after she rode in that Kingdom Day parade in Leimert Park. Congresswoman Lee, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Glad to be back with you.
Great
nice seeing you.
Great to see you, too. So we've got a debate upcoming in a matter of days, the first TV debate. What's your strategy?
Well, my strategy is to speak directly to the voters, making sure the voters know that I see them, making sure voters know my experience, what I have done, how I have delivered for my district and for California, and what I intend to do in the United States Senate on their behalf.
What do you see, how do you see the state of this race? Most polls right now show you in 4th place. To advance, you got to get to 2nd. Where do you see things? Well,
let me tell you, people are just tuning in now to this election. There's still a lot of undecideds, first of all. What this is about is targeting our voters, making sure they get to know me, making sure that they get to the polls. That's the best, to the polls on voting day on March 5th. That's the best.
Yeah, the only poll that matters is election day,
yeah,
right?
And mail-in ballots will be coming out pretty soon.
Right. One of the things that have drawn a lot of young voters to you is your position when it comes to a ceasefire in the Middle East. You first called for that on October 8th. What is your position? Can you clarify what exactly you'd like to see happen in the Middle East?
Well, early on, I condemned the Hamas attack, and I talked about Israel deserves security, and we must address terrorism in the region, especially as it relates to Israel, and that the Israelis deserve to live with peace and security. And that has nothing to do with my also calling for a ceasefire, because in prosecuting this war, there is no way that now almost 24,000 civilians should have been killed, and humanitarian crisis is catastrophic. So it's in Israel's best interest that we call for, that I've called for a ceasefire, so that there can be a path to a political and diplomatic solution. This is counterproductive to Israel's security, and too many people are dying, and this is a humanitarian catastrophe, and so we have to take ownership in terms of leadership and try to help put together a diplomatic and political solution.
You know, there's some folks that are supporters of Israel that would say there is no negotiating with Hamas, an organization that believes in the destruction of Israel and the destruction of the Jewish people. What do you say to that? How do you negotiate with them?
Let me say, first of all, we have to be clear that this could develop into a regional war that's going to be even more dangerous. And yes, Hamas needs to be eliminated. Don't eliminate Hamas by killing innocent civilians. We have to make sure that the hostages are released. How are the hostages going to be released when you have massive bombing throughout Gaza? And so, no, it's counterproductive to Israel's security. I believe that, and I believe that the only way that we're going to get the hostages released, and the only way that Israel will be secure, and the only way we could stop this humanitarian disaster is through a political and diplomatic solution. And we have to have the region and the Arab nations come together also to make sure that this happens.
We're out here on Martin Luther King Day. You're part of the parade here today. What does it mean for you personally to feel the love, to be here, especially wearing a shirt, elect black women, be talking about that message here?
It's very important. First of all, I'm so happy to be here. You know, I attended San Fernando Junior High and San Fernando High School, first black cheerleader at San Fernando High School, so this was my old stomping ground, especially on the weekends, and really enjoyed seeing a lot of people who I grew up with, people who've moved from the Valley back into Los Angeles, family and friends, supporters, and people who know me as a member of Congress. So, and it's important also to recognize how happy I am to be here on Martin Luther King's birthday, because Dr. King, drum major for justice, drum major for peace, and he talked about we must deal with the three evils here in America: racism, militarism, and poverty. And he also said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So what all these people are doing today, and everyone, is making that arc bend toward justice quicker and faster and more, make it permanent.
What do you think he would make of this moment in America? And as a student of him, which I know you are, how do you think about his lessons now in terms of what to do in terms of public policy going forward?
Well, first, Dr. King said the path to peace is not through violence. And after I was the only one who voted against the authorization to use force in 2001, based on that 60-word overly broad authorization, I talked to Coretta Scott King. She called me and I saw her, and she told me, she said, Martin would be very proud of you.
Wow.
And she told me, she said, he would stand with you. Don't back down. Dr. King understood that endless wars is not going to allow us to live and see our common humanity and work toward eliminating poverty and racism and militarism. It won't allow us to be able to build housing for the unsheltered or health care. It won't allow us to do what we have to do for the next generation in terms of our climate and our planet.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your views today. We got some nice music behind us as we were talking too.
And this is a lot of fun too.
It's a lot of fun
to be
out here. It's always fun to talk with you, and best of luck on the debate stage. We'll see you soon.
See you soon, and thank you again. I'm glad you're here.
Up next here on The Issue is a different view from Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, Eric Early. Stay with us. We continue our coverage of the candidates for U.S. Senate. We welcome back to The Issue is Eric Early. Of course, he is a Republican attorney and talk show host. He's run before for Congress and for Attorney General. Welcome back to The Issue is. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me again, Alex.
So how do you see the state of this race right now?
Well, we're having a great campaign. The great grassroots of California all around our state are supporting me. I've been endorsed by great Republican organizations, the California Republican Assembly. Ronald Reagan called them the conscience of the Republican Party, and they are. So many great county Republican parties all around the state, great individuals. The only drawback I've seen recently is that there's a major debate coming up on Monday, and Politico and the USC School of Political Something, in their in their infinite wisdom, decided to cut the debate only to the top four, and even according to their poll, and I haven't even seen how they did the poll, I came in fifth. So there are 23 candidates in this race. Why'd they cut it to 4 and not go to 5? Because my point of view is completely different than the 3 far-left Democrats they're having on and the Joe Biden Republican they're having on.
So obviously, our station is a part of that, and our station management chose to set the qualifying metrics at the top 4 in addition to the partners. That's not my call. I have control over this show, and you're here. So I want to spend the time talking about the issues that matter and talk about the state of the race right now. And part of the reason that I think that happened is we've seen Steve Garvey's poll numbers increase. What do you make of Steve Garvey, the candidate, and his comments this week to Politico that he would consider voting for Joe Biden for president? You know,
that comment coming from somebody who calls himself a Republican is disgusting. All right? I'm known as the Trump supporter in this race. There's never been any surprise about it. I ran against Schiff before a couple years ago when he was leading the Russia hoax and the bogus impeachments. And for the person who thinks he's the lead Republican candidate, I mean, yes, he's got name recognition among certain people. I mean, he hasn't picked up a baseball bat in 40 years, at least on a baseball field. But it's disgusting. I'm the only one in this race fighting for the things that matter to all Californians: immigration, indoctrination, inflation, incarceration, immigration, over 7 million, 8 million and counting illegally across our borders. I support legal immigration with an L. I will support, as the next U.S. Senator, sending our military to the border to stop this. Indoctrination. I've been involved in this situation for a long time. Our schools in this state and many blue states around the country have become indoctrination camps. What they're doing to our kids' brains, teaching them to hate America, dividing them by race, bringing in this sexual fluidity stuff is outrageous.
Who's teaching kids to hate America?
If you look at the curricula that they allow you to see, and I once represented a great group of parents against the Santa Barbara Unified School District.
It says hate America?
It doesn't say hate America, but they're telling them all of these things. America was bad for doing this, and America was bad for doing that, and this and that. Yes, we're not perfect, but we are always striving to be a better union, and I absolutely believe this is the greatest country in human history, and I believe in American exceptionalism.
We've done something with all of the leading candidates for Senate, which I call the 4 questions. Basically, try to get a quick view of you. First thing that comes to mind, short answers on this. What do you think is the biggest domestic issue facing America right now?
Right this second, we've got to lock our borders down. We can't let more millions of people into our country.
Biggest international issue?
Communist China is an enemy nation, and we as a nation have to declare them an enemy nation.
Committee you'd most like to serve on?
I think foreign relations right now would be a big deal given everything that's going on.
And who is the modern senator you most admire?
Oh, that's a great one. I like the following 3 right now. I like Josh Hawley, I like Mike Lee, I like Ted Cruz.
So back to your point about China, an enemy nation.
Yeah.
China is our biggest trading partner. They own the majority of the U.S. debt. If you call them an enemy nation, what does that do to our economy, and what does that do to world safety?
Listen, Alex, what's going on right now is they have started a Cold War against us over 2 decades ago. There was a 100-year plan to dominate the world both economically and militarily. They are closing in on that goal, but we must protect our nation from them. They are an enemy of our nation. I'm not talking about our great Chinese Americans who escaped from communism. I've got lots of Chinese American friends, so we have to protect them, but we have to start breaking up this relationship with Communist China.
You are running for the seat once held by Dianne Feinstein. She left quite a legacy. When you're done, if you win the seat and you're Senator Early, what do you want to be seen as your legacy?
And my legacy will be doing everything we can to bring back California from the brink, because it is on the brink, and bring back this country as well.
Is that your closing argument?
Well, that's my closing argument is I'm fighting for all forgotten Californians. I'm a Republican, but I'm fighting for all forgotten Californians of all political persuasions. You wake up in the morning and you see over 7 million coming across the border. You don't think there's anything you could do about it. You're a forgotten Californian. And I could go on and on with that list. So I fight for all forgotten Californians. And even though I'm a Republican, I need everybody's vote. Those ballots start going out next week, and every registered voter of every political party can vote for me.
We want to now take a moment to have some fun. Play personal issues, which you've played on our show before, get to know you a little bit. You know, it is award season in California, one of our big industries here. So I want to ask about some of your cultural favorites. Here we go with 30 seconds on the clock. Let's do it. What was your favorite movie of the year?
Favorite movie? Oppenheimer, absolutely.
Favorite TV show of the year?
I'm a huge fan of Yellowstone.
Favorite vacation spot in California?
I just like the North Country of California. California is a grand and glorious and beautiful state. Our state is failing right now, but we can get this back and turn ourselves back into the Golden State again.
All right, well, there's our 30 seconds. So much for the other things. But thank you so much. It is always fun to talk to you and hear your views. And we're appreciative of showcasing a lot of views here on The Issue Is. And in the past, we've asked you about your favorite music. And you said it was a song called When I'm President, which may be wishful thinking. I'm
not running for president. Okay. I'm running for senator, but it's a great song. And I know you have it teed up, Alex.
So let's go to break with When I'm President. Maybe one day.
Thanks for having me again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. General David Petraeus served in uniform for almost 40 years. As a four-star general, he led both the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and then directed the CIA. This week, we met up with General Petraeus here in Los Angeles. He visited the Barnes & Noble store at the Grove with the Grove's owner, Rick Caruso. Petraeus in town to promote his new book. It's called Conflict: The Evolution of Warfare from 1945 to Ukraine. General David Petraeus, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Good to be with you, August.
What do you see as the U.S.'s role right now when it comes to some of these conflicts around the world?
Well, I think we have a very significant national security interest, an economic interest in helping Ukraine, for example, helping Israel, helping maintain freedom of navigation through the Red Sea, whatever it is around the world. This is not charity. It's in our interest to do this, and in the interest of our allies and partners who help us with many of these. In fact, if I could, I think that we face the greatest number of challenges and the most complex array of challenges since the end of the Cold War at least, and maybe since the end of World War II. In fact, if you think of the U.S. as the guy in the circus who has to keep a lot of plates spinning, has help from allies and partners with a number of them, the China plate's bigger than all the others and more important. The Russia plate is very substantial. There's still North Korea, there's Iran, there are cyber threats of various types. There are domestic populism issues that create challenges. And I think we have to take the lead in the world. And we do it, again, not for charitable reasons, but because it's in our national interest to do so.
I know right after the Hamas attack on Israel, you said that it was possible to eliminate Hamas. Do you still think that it's possible to eliminate from Hamas?
Well, what I said is to destroy Hamas, which actually in military terms means to render Hamas incapable of accomplishing their mission without reconstitution. I think it's possible, and that's how I put it then as well, but very, very hard, and it remains to be seen, frankly. But I do believe that Israel should destroy Hamas, and I believe we should help them by providing. They're not asking us to fight, they're asking for assistance. I think it's right also, as they are seeking to do, to dismantle the Hamas political wing. Hamas cannot be allowed to run Gaza again, and then obviously to get their hostages back. But there's some very tough additional decisions that need to be made, big ideas that need to be agreed, such as who will administer Gaza after this. And I fear that it's going to have to be Israel. There's no hands going up in the region to do this. There's no competent, capable, trustworthy Palestinian entity waiting in the wings in the West Bank to come over on the backs of Israeli tanks, and they wouldn't want to do that anyway, perhaps. So that's a tough decision. And then how do you keep Hamas from reconstituting? And we looked, my co-author Andrew Roberts and I, at these situation since 1945, which is the subject of the book. Sure. We see no situation as fiendishly difficult as what Israel faces in an enemy who doesn't wear a uniform, who uses civilians as human shields, who has hundreds of miles of very well-developed infrastructure underground, holds hostages, knows the ground, and is a very formidable extremist group.
Let's talk more about the book. You look at warfare, and you look at some of the same mistakes that are repeated over and over again. You say including by Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. What are some of those key mistakes that are made?
Well, it's not getting the big ideas right. So we lay out in the introduction the intellectual construct for strategic leadership that I used. It applies in a civilian setting too. There are 4 tasks. You have to get the big ideas right. You have to really understand the context. Again, your forces, the enemy forces, the physical terrain, the human terrain, the neighborhood, how the country is supposed to operate, how it really operates, all the elements of society and dynamics, and craft the right strategy. Vladimir Putin totally underestimated the capabilities of the Ukrainians and their determination to protect Kyiv, and the leadership qualities, frankly, of President Zelensky, who has been a very effective strategic leader. Whereas President Zelensky, very courageous, his first big idea is, I don't want to ride, I want ammunition. Sure. We're staying in Kyiv, my family's going to stay here, we're going to fight for it. We're going to mobilize the entire country in our war of independence, our fight for survival. And all males are going to stay in Ukraine. But the challenge is that although Ukraine has performed heroically and impressively, and we've provided a substantial amount of assistance, the outcome hangs in the balance. And so this is a very challenging situation. I strongly believe that it's in the U.S. national interest, again, not charity, and obviously in the interest of NATO countries and European countries, really the Western world, to provide the assistance to Ukraine to liberate as much of their territory as they possibly can, and to do this as expeditiously as is possible, especially when it comes to the decisions that are being developed in Washington, where this is taking, in my view, too long.
Well, I could talk to you all day, but we're short on time. You can get a lot more in the book, and your proceeds go to veterans charities as well. Yet another reason to support the book. General David Petraeus, thank you so much for being on, and thank you for your service to our country.
Well, that was a privilege, and so was being with you again, Eris. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can get extended interviews with all of our guests, including General Petraeus, in podcast form. Stream anywhere, anytime, for free by searching for The Issue Is. We'll be right back.
George Gascon has abandoned all of the victims here in Los Angeles,
heralding in the golden age of criminals. The facts don't support what these folks are saying here.
This week, I moderated a debate for LA Magazine with LA County DA George Gascon and 9 of his top challengers. You can stream that at lamag.com. Next week, I'll co-moderate the debate for U.S. Senate. We've been talking about it all show. You can watch or stream the debate Monday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And then next week here on The Issue Is, Congressman Adam Schiff, the Democratic frontrunner, will be here in our studio to talk about the debate and the state of the race. That is all for now. We end with music from the Kingdom Day parade we visited in Leimert Park and my personal favorites, the USC Trojan Marching Band. Fight on.